Well, welcome to a new podcast. It's been a long time. I've been traveling pretty intensively. This one is the podcast of Shadow of the Mothership, the first of three stories in a cycle. Shadow of the Mothership, Home Again, and Superman and the Bug Out. Shadow of the Mothership was originally published in the late lamented Amazing Science Fiction, which was the descendant of the very first, I think, science fiction magazine, or one of the first science fiction magazines. No, I actually, come to think of it, I think its claim was that it was the longest published science fiction magazine. Anyway, I don't remember. Quite venerable science fiction magazine, thrashed a lot, got reinvented several times, eventually folded, no longer around. This story was published in it before it tanked the last time, and it was reprinted in my short story collection, A Place So Foreign and 8 more. I'm going to be podcasting this and then the two sequels to it, Home Again, and Superman and the Bug Out. So as I say, I've been traveling for a long time. It's been a month on the road, mostly in Australia. Started in Brisbane, spoke at a conference. Then we had a little bit of holidays. I did the most amazing thing. I went scuba diving for 4 days in the Great Barrier Reef and actually took my advanced PADI certification, so I actually got to level up. It was amazing. Shark feeding, wreck dives, night dives, just totally wild visiting a Martian world. Like nothing I've ever seen or done. It was just wild. I can't be effusive enough about it. If you ever get the chance to scuba dive on a big reef like the Great Barrier Reef, you should take it. Wow. Then I was the guest of honor at the Australian National Science Fiction Convention along with Bruce Sterling, which was really cool, and it also was the fourth continent on which Bruce and I got together in the last 12 months. We were at the Singapore Writers Festival in Asia, and we were at the LIFT conference in Geneva, and at the Emerging Tech conference in San Diego. As always, it was a real pleasure to see Bruce. Then on to give speeches in Melbourne and Sydney. Thank you to everyone who turned up. And then 4 days in Tokyo, and some special time at Tokyo Disneyland and Tokyo Disney Sea. Tokyo Disney Sea turns out to be the most amazing park you've ever seen. If you've been to the Animal Kingdom in Florida, it's like that level of detail, but instead of kind of a recreated savanna and jungle, it's recreated great seaports of the world. Turn of the century New York, Middle Age Renaissance Venice, and so on. And particularly the Venetian area was just wild. You can check out my Flickr stream for pictures of that. Just getting ready now in London, back in London, to move to Los Angeles and take up my Fulbright chair at the University of Southern California next year. So everything's in boxes. My office is shut, so all my files are sort of scattered around here, and we're a little crowded, but it's quite cool because this adventure is about to start. And it's starting well. I've just had a triple nomination for the Locus Award for my stories Human Readable, I, Robot, and my novel Someone Comes to Town, Someone Leaves Town. Thank you for everyone who nominated me for those awards. My story Craphound, which you would have heard on this podcast, retransmitted from the Escape Pod podcast, that story has just been sold to a Polish magazine, so there's going to be a Polish translation of it. And actually, speaking of Poland, I just found out that the bit of White Russia my grandfather was born in was actually annexed by Poland before he was born there. So it looks like I might actually be eligible for Polish citizenship, which would be really cool because it would save me a lot of hassles with my British residency and renewing my visa and so on. It's been a real writing weekend. I've been writing articles for The Economist and for the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, my regular column for Make Magazine, and I just started a new column in Locus Magazine. You can look forward to seeing that soon. And finally, the best news of all, I've gotten a Hugo nomination for my story, I, Robot. I can't remember whether this came before or after I left for my holidays. I might have mentioned in my previous podcast, but wow, what amazing news. I'm one of those people who sits at the Hugo Awards every year at the World Science Fiction Convention, just going nuts. It's, I've always loved the Hugo Awards, and the one time I was nominated and then won an award at the Hugos, the Campbell Award, it was the most magical night of my life. So I'm really, really happy to find out that I'm going to be up on that stage again, and or in that crowd again, and thank you to everyone who nominated that story, I, Robot, and I hope you'll remember me come voting time. You can get the I, Robot story either from the Infinite Matrix, where it was originally published, or the podcast here on this feed. So without further ado, here's the first part of the three-part story, Shadow with Mothership, followed by Home Again, and finally Superman and the Bug Out. I hope you enjoy it. Thanks. Shadow of the Mothership by Cory Doctorow. Originally published in Amazing Stories, Winter 2000. It's the untethering of my parents' house that's on my plate today. The flying of a kite on a windy Toronto Halloween day, and the suspension of worry for a shiny moment. And sail surface isn't even a problemette when it comes to my parents' home. The thing is a 3-story bat whose narrow wings contain the trolley car-shaped bedrooms and storages. Mum and Dad built it themselves while I tottered in the driveway, sucking a filthy shred of blanket, and as I contemplate it today, with hands on hips, from the front yard, I am there on that day. Dad is nail-gunning strips of plywood into a frame. Mum stands where I am now, hands on her hips, and I take my hands from my hips, hastily shove them deep in pockets. She squints and shouts directions. Then they both grab rolls of scrim and staple guns and stretch it loosely across the frames and fast bond pipes and prefab fixtures into place. Mum harnesses up the big tanks of foam and aims the blower at the scrim, giving it 5 fat coats. Then she drops the blower, and she and Dad grab spatulas and tease zillions of curlicues and Baroque stuccos from the surface, painting it with ketchup, chutney, good whiskey and bad wine, a massive canvas covered by centimeters, until they declare it ready, and Mum switches tanks, loads up with the fix bath, and mists it with the salty spray. 10 minutes later, the house is hard, and they get to work unloading the U-Haul in the drive. And now I'm 22 again, and I will untether that house and fly it in the stiff breeze that ruffles my hair affectionately. Firstly and most foremost, I need to wait for the man. I hate to wait, but today it's waiting and harsh and dull, dull, dull. So I wait for the man, Stewed the dude, and the gentle clip-clop of Tilly's hooves on the traction nub foam of my Chestnut Ave. My nose is pressed against the window in the bat's crotch, fingers dug into the hub of fatty foam that runs around its perimeter, fog patches covering the rime of ground-in filth that I've allowed to accumulate on my parents' spotless windows. Where the frick is Stewed? The man has cometh, clip clop clop clip, Stewed the dude as long as a dangling booger, and his clapped out nag Tilly, and the big foam cart with its stocks of crates and barrels and boxes, ready to do the deal. Max's, he says, and I know I'm getting taken today. He looks genuinely glad to see me. Stewed, nice day, how's it? I say, as cash and cool as I can, which isn't very. Fine day, straight up fine day to be alive and awaiting judgment. He power chugs from the perpetual coffee thermos at his side. Fine day, I echo. Fine, fine day. Like he's not in any hurry to get down to the deal, and I know it's a contest. The first one to wheel gets taken. I snort and go, "Yeah-huh?" It's almost cheating, since I should have had something else nice to say, but Stewed gives me a conversational get-out-of-jail-free. Good night to Tricky Treat. I concede defeat. I need some stuff, dude. Give it to him. He doesn't gloat. Just hauls again from Mr. Coffee and pooches his lips and nods. Need a spool of monofilament, 3 clicks, safety insulated, 4 liters of fixed bath, liter and a half of solvent. Yeah, okay. You got a permit for the solvent? If I had a permit, Stewed, I'd go and buy it at the frickin' store. Don't pull my dick. Just askin'. Why for the solvent? Anything illegal? Just a project, Stewed. Nothing to worry. What kind of project? Art project. Fun frickin' tastic. You'll love it. 'Cause, they tag that shit with buckyballs now. 1 molecule in a million with a serial number and a checksum. You do something stupid, I get chopped. I hadn't known. Didn't matter. My parents' house was legally mine while they were up confabbing with their alien buds on the Mothaship. No worries. That'll be 68 cents. 30. 60 firm. 54. 58. You take it in trade? Frickin' Maxes. Tradesies? You're wasting my time. Looking for bootleg solvent, looking for trade, and no cash? Get fucked, Maxes. He starts to haw up Tilly, and I go, Wait, I got some good stuff. Everything must go. Moving sale, He looks really pissed, and I know it hard now. I'm gonna get taken. I hand him up my bag, and he does a fast paw through the junk. "What's this?" he asked. "Old video game, Atari. Shoot up the space aliens. Really, really antisocial. Needs a display, but I don't got it anymore. I'd sold it the month before on a bored day, and used the 8 cents to buy good seats behind home plate at the Sky Dome, and thus killed an entire afternoon before Judgment Day. There are some arty-farty freestyle kitchen utensils that Mum used to sell for real cash until Dad founded his process for lasting happiness, and she found herself able to pursue real art. There are paper books and pictures and assorted other crap." Stude clucks and shakes his head. "Look, if I just gave you the monofill and the fixed bath for this shit, it'd be a favor. I can get real money for solvent. I pay real money for solvent. This just doesn't cut it. I'll get more, just hang on a sec." He haws up Tilly, but reins her in slow, and I dash back to my place and fill a duffel with anything I can lay hands to, and run out, dragging it behind me, catching the cart before it turns the corner. "Here, here, take this too." Stu dumps it out in front of him and kicks at the pile. "This is just crap, Maxes. There's lots of it, sure, but it's still crap." "I need it, Stude. I really need some solvent. You already got all my good stuff." He shakes his head, sad, and says, "Go ask Tilly." "Ask? Tilly, ask her." Stude likes to humiliate you a little before he does you a favor. "The word is capricious," he told me once. So I go to his smelly old horse and whisper in her hairy ear and hold my breath as I put my ear next to her rotten jumbo chiclet she uses for teeth. "She says you should do it," I say, "and she says you're an asshole for making me ask her. She says horses can't talk." "Yeah, okay," and he tosses me the goods. With stage 1 blessedly behind me, I'm ready for stage 2. I take the nozzle of the solvent aerosol and run a drizzle along the fatty roll of the windowsills, and then pop them out as the fixed bath runs away and the windows fly free and shatter in the street below. Then it's time to lighten the ballast. With kicks and grunts and a mantra of out, 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 I toss everything in the house out, savoring each crash, taking care to leave a clear path between the house and the street. On the 3rd floor I find Dad's cardigan, the one Mum gave him one anniversary, and I put it on. She carved it herself from foam and fixed it with some flexible dirt-shedding bath, so by the time I'm done with the 3rd floor, my arms and chest are black with dust, and the sweater is still glowing with eerie cleanliness. I know Dad wouldn't want me to wear his sweater now. They say that on the Mothaship, the bug-outs have ways to watch each and every one of us, and maybe Mum and Dad are there, watching me, and so I wipe my nose on the sleeve. When the ballast is done, phase 3 begins. I go to work outside of the house, spritzing a line of solvent at the point where the foam meets the ground until it's all dissolved. And then I gotta kick myself for an asshole. A strand of armored fiber optic, a steel water pipe, and the ceramic gas line hold it all down, totally impervious to solvent. Somewhere, in a toolbox that I ditched at the 2nd floor window, is a big old steel meat cleaver, and now I hunt for it, prying apart the piles of crap with a broomstick, feeling every inch the post-apocalyptic scrounger. I finally locate it, hanging out of arm's reach from my neighbor Linus's rose trellis. As I shake the trellis until it falls, missing my foot, which I jerk away and swear at. The fiber cleaves in a single stroke. The gas line takes 20 or more, each stroke clanging off the ceramic and sending the blade back alarmingly at my face. Finally it gives, and the sides splinter, and a great jet of gas whooshes out, then stop. I could kick myself for an asshole. Praise the bug-outs for civil engineers who made self-sealing pipes. I eye the water line and flip open my comm, dial into the city, and touch-tone my way through a near-sexy woman reading menus, until I find out that the water, too, self-seals. Wang, 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 and I'm soaked and blinded by water that bursts free, and I could kick myself for an asshole. The house, now truly untethered, catches a gust of wind and lifts itself a few meters off the ground, body checking me on my ass. I do a basketball jump and catch the solvent-melted corner, drag it down to earth, long arm for the fixed bath, and slop it where the corner meets the driveway, bonding it until Phase 4 is ready. I bond one end of the monofilament to the right front corner of the house, then let it unwind, covered in a racer pink safety goop, until I'm standing in my deserted Chestnut Ave. I spray a dent in the middle of the road with my solvent, plunk the reel into it, bond it, then rush back into the house and unbond that one last corner. I hit the suck button on the reel, and the house slowly drags its way to the street, leaving a gap like a broken tooth in the carefully groomed smile of my Chestnut Ave. The wind fluffs at the house, making it unsettle like a nervous hen, and so I give it line by teasing the spit button on the reel until it's 100 meters away. Then I reel it in and out, timing it with the gusts until, in a sudden, magnificent second, it catches and sails up and up and up, and I'm a friggin' genius. It's nearly 4, and my beautiful kite is a dancing bird in the sky before the good little kiddies of my Chestnut Ave start to trickle home from their days of denial, playing at normalcy in the face of judgment. Linus is the first one home, and he nearly decapitates himself on the taut line as he cruises past on his bicycle. He slews to a stop and stares unbelieving at me, at the airborne house, at the gap where he had a neighbor. Max's Fuente Schumacher, what is this? Flying a kite, Linus, just flying a kite. Nice day for it, yeah? This, he says, then sputters. Linus is a big devotee of Dad's process for lasting happiness, and I can actually watch him try to come up with some scripture to cover the situation while he gulps back mouthfuls of bile. This is an irresponsible wrong, Max's. You are being a feckless filthy. This is an abuse of property, a lashing out at a figure in absentia. You are endangering others, endangering aircraft and people and property below that. I insist that you make this now, this instant. Yeah, yeah. And I squint up at my kite, the sun coming down behind it now, and it's just a dot in the big orange fire. The wind's more biting than friendly. I pull the foam sweater a little closer and do up one of the buttons in the middle. Max's! Linus shouts, and his happiness dissipating. You have 30 seconds to get that down here, or I will make it myself. I didn't live with my dad for 20 years without picking up some process speak. You seem to be ego-squeezing here, Lynn. This blame-saying is a barrier to joy, bud, and the mark of a weekend happy man. Why don't you watch some TV or something? He ignores me and makes a big show of flipping open his comm and starting a timer running on it. Man, my kite is a work of art. Mega fun. Time's up, feckless filthy, Linus says, and snakes out and punches the suck button on my monofilament reel. It whizzes and line starts disappearing into its guts. You can't bring a kite down that way, frickface. It'll crash. Which it does, losing all its airworthiness in one hot second and plummeting like a house. It tears up some trees down my Chestnut Ave, and I hear a Rice Krispies bowl of Snap Crackle Pops from further away. I use a shear to clip the line, and it zaps away like a hyperactive snake. Moron, I say to Linus. The good kiddies of Chestnut Ave are now trickling home in 2s and 3s, and looking at the gap in the smile with looks of such bovine stupidity that I stalk away in disgust, leaving the reel bonded to the middle of the road forever. I build a little fort out of a couch and some cushions, slop fixed bath over the joints so they're permanent, and hide in it, shivering. Tricky-treaters didn't come knocking on my pillow fort last night. That's fine by me. I slept. I rise with the sun and the dew and the aches of a cold night on a mattress of clothes and towels. I flip open my comm, and there's a half-dozen clippings my agents found in the night. 5 are about the bug-outs. 1 is about the kite. It crashed around Highway 7 and the 400 in Vaughan, bouncing and skidding. Traffic was light, and though there were a few fender benders, nothing serious went down. The city dispatched a couple 3 guys to go out with solvent and melt the thing, but by the time they arrived, an errant breeze had lofted it again and flew at another 70 km until it crossed the anti-debris field at John Paul Aristide International in Barrie. I'm hungry, I'm cold, my teeth are beshitted with scum. Linus comes tripping Noel Coward out of his front door, and I feel like kicking his ass. He sees me staring at him. "Did you have a good night, Maxes?" "Spiff, strictly niffed. Eat shit and die." He tisks and shakes his head and gets on his bicycle. He works down at Bloor and Young in the big process HQ. His dad was my dad's lieutenant, and since they both went to the confab on the Mothaship, along with all the other grown-ups on my Chestnut Ave, he's sort of in charge. Shit-eating prick. He lisps a little when he talks, and he's soft and pudgy, not like Dad, who could orate like a Roman tyrant and had a washboard for a gut. I hope he gets hit by a semi. I pass the morning with my calm till I come to the pict of Mom and Dad and their process buds on the jetway to the shuttle at Aristide, ascending the heavens as humanity's reps. They're both naked and arm in arm and as chaste as John and Yoko, and my eyes fill up with tears. I crawl back into my fort and sleep and dream about buzzing Chestnut Ave in a shuttle with a payload of solvent, melting down all the houses into trickles that disappear into the sewers. I wake for the second time that day to the sound of a gas engine, a rarity on Chestnut Ave and the surrounding North Toronto environs. It's a truck from the city, the kind they used to use to take away the trash before the Pneuma was finished. Dad had pointed out how it was a point of excellence, the plans for the subterranean Pneuma, and his acolytes quietly saw to it. 3 men in coveralls and reflective vests on the back. It pulls up to my drive, and my comm chimes. It's a text-only message, signed and key-crypted from Linus, on process letterhead. The first thing it does is flash a big message about how by reading it I have logged my understanding of its contents, and it is now officially served to me, as per blah blah blah. Legal doc. I scroll down, just skimming. Non-compos mentis, anti-social destruction of property, reckless endangerment of innocent life, violation of terms, sad duty of the trustees, and by the time I finish the message, I'm disinherited, cut off from the process trust fund, property stripped, subpoenaed to a competency hearing. The driver of the truck has been waiting for me to finish the note. He makes eye contact with me, I make eye contact with him. The other 2 hop out and start throwing my piles of ballast into the back of the truck. I take my bicycle from the shed out back, kick my way through the piles of crap, and ride off into the sunset.